the idea of like, oh, if I had just stuck with something just to have a pretty resume, like don't live to your resume. Don't live to build your paper resume a certain way because it just sounds awful. It's just a piece of paper. I want to build a sustainable future, right? And for me, that means a future where we are thriving. If we are stuck in jobs that we don't like just to pay the bills or just to have a pretty resume, that is not thriving. Just trying to have more of these conversations around, like I said, seeking out that pleasure, infusing more of it into our lives, talking more about women building wealth and using that not only to have a powerful impact, but for pleasure, to enjoy and to improve the quality of our lives so that we can continue the work that we're doing.
Welcome to Here for More podcast. I'm your host, Natalie Kraus, and this is the show where we're as passionate about personal growth as we are about saving the planet. We know that life's not just a list of boxes to check off, and we don't sit around just waiting for lightning to strike. We are action takers. We're proactive, passionate, and determined to massively impact this earth and the people on it. For as much as I've already learned throughout my own life, I know there's a lifetime more to go, which is why I'm taking this journey right alongside you. We can do the hard things we dream of. We can answer our soul's deepest callings, and we don't have to do it alone. Our journey towards greater purpose, fulfillment, and joy evolves just as we do. It starts right here, right now, and again tomorrow. This is what it means to be here for more. Join Jess and I as we host our very first surf and yoga wellness retreat this December in Troncones, Mexico. We still have space left, but spots are filling up quickly. So if you're interested, the link is in the show notes. Go check it out for more details and to learn how to register. You do not need any surf or yoga experience. This is catered towards whatever level you're at. We're working with wonderful surf instructors. I'll be teaching some of your yoga classes. It's just going to be a really awesome experience. Jess and I are so excited, and the humans that are already signed up are super excited as well. The only thing that's missing is you. So go check out that link. Feel free to DM me on Instagram if you have any questions. We would love to see you there. Welcome back to Here for More podcast. I'm your host, Natalie Kraus, and I'm here today with Stephanie Lentz. She is the founder and CEO of Scoop Marketplace, which is a zero waste store. Stephanie, thank you so much for being here today. I'm so excited to meet you and to have you on the show to talk about what it's like to run a brick and mortar business, but also one that is focused on this zero waste living. So thank you for being here. Tell us a little bit more about yourself and how you got started in this.
Absolutely. Well, my name is Stephanie, and I'm from the Seattle, Washington area. And how I got started. It's always a journey that kind of snowballed into this big thing that now is a business. I've always considered myself to be environmentally friendly, I suppose. We were taught to recycle in elementary school and learned about composting. And I think in the Pacific Northwest, especially, there's a certain pride in taking care of the planet and enjoying being out in nature that just feels a little bit different from other parts of the country. But then I started to realize that even though some of those things made me, kind of set me apart from other people or made me seem really extreme or, caused my friends to think of me as a hippie or something like that, it really wasn't that extreme. And it really wasn't doing that much for the planet. So that was a little unsettling. But basically, we watched a bunch of documentaries, probably in 2015, maybe. And we started out learning about our food and the impact that it has on the planet. So we switched to a plant-based diet, but that is when it really snowballed into everything else. And that's when, we explored minimalism and just like the whole plastic-free thing and why it's important that our food is organic. And it was when I really started researching the plastic stuff and learning about microplastics and learning about how it has contaminated every possible part of the planet. And so
Hmm.
this concept of, okay, even if I'm buying my organic food, it's grown in this soil that unfortunately has microplastics in the soil and or in the water. And it's been, these plastics have been found at the deepest parts of the ocean that have been explored and in the air at the top of Mount Everest. And it's just like, what have we done? So I got very overwhelmed and my eco anxiety was just like freaking out. And I had no idea what I could do to solve the problem, but I had a pretty good sense that I could probably at least stop contributing to it.
Mm.
My family could make some changes so that we weren't making it any worse than it already is.
Yeah.
So that's when we really started kind of down this path and made changes to our daily habits and routines. And then a couple years later is when I really got frustrated with the whole grocery shopping thing. And it was like, why is it so hard to go grocery shopping and come home without trash? And even as plant
Yeah.
eaters, mostly shopping produce and then bulk food like beans and rice and things like that. Still, if you want pasta, it's going to come in a box or a bag. There aren't a lot of conventional stores with bulk sections that have things like pasta in bulk. And it was frustrating. And I had seen all of these stores in Europe that were these zero waste stores where you bring your own container and it's all these beautiful bulk bins and products you never would have thought you could get in bulk. And it just seemed like something that would do really well in the Seattle area. In fact, I kind of felt like I can't believe no one else has done this. And so anyhow, I was complaining about this and my husband just kind of looked at me and said, "Well, does that mean, you need to open your own?" And I said, "Well, I guess it does." And I it didn't occur to me to ask him if he was joking, but I really hope not because we're in it. We're committed at this point. So, yeah. And that was about a little over 4 years ago now.
And where's your store located, out of curiosity?
I
I
have
forgot.
one in Kirkland, Washington, and then I have another one in Renton, Washington.
Okay, cool. Cool. That's so funny. I was born in Kirkland and I don't know
Oh,
anything else
really?
about it other than the fact I was born there.
That's where I grew up, actually.
Oh, awesome. That's so cool. I love hearing stories of from people about how they, kind of got started on this. And especially now with climate change and sustainability and all of things are very much like buzzwords. And there's something that people are so much more aware of, which, there's pros and cons to that. I mean, overall, the awareness is very, very good. But I love hearing the story. And so thank you for sharing that with us. And I love the fact that your husband said that and that you were like, I hope you're not joking because I think I'm going to do this. And here you are now. So with that, I don't know much about your store. So would you please share a little bit about what your store actually is? Is it bulk? Or like, how does the zero waste, what does that mean if someone's listening right now and is not sure about that?
Absolutely. So a zero waste store basically, and sometimes I'm a little cautious about using that term because that does not work in our systems, right? We cannot
Yeah.
be zero waste without having a very, very extreme off-grid lifestyle, right? But it is, as you mentioned, it's the buzzword. It's the word that people know to search for online. And so it's this idea of basically we sell package-free food, home goods, and personal care products. So you can bring your own reusable container and all of the goods are sold by weight. So being able to purchase it in whatever quantity you need or desire, not only are you avoiding the disposable packaging, but you're also avoiding food waste because you're choosing the quantity. Whereas if you go to a store and there's this plastic package that has, 6 heads of romaine lettuce and you can only eat 2.5 of them before they go
Right.
bad, that food waste is related to a predetermined quantity that was packaged. You didn't get to choose how much you can eat in a week or what would make the most sense for you in that situation. So it's, tackling a few different sustainable issues. And then we also sell lifestyle products. So things that can help to replace disposable items that are part of your daily routine, whether that's, reusable menstrual products, which are some of my favorites. And one of the things that has had the biggest impact for me in terms of improving my quality of life. That's actually our
Mm.
mission is teaching people how they can improve the quality of their lives while they're learning to walk more gently on the planet. So this shouldn't be some extreme sacrifice. This should feel good. It should feel
Yeah.
expansive. You should feel this kind of freedom. I mean, nobody likes taking out the trash, right?
You're
And
right.
when you get something like a freebie or a pamphlet or a piece of paper or something, it's like, oh, well, now I have to figure out how to get rid of this thing. Do I recycle it? Does it go in the landfill? Is it compostable? What can I do with it? So when you're just reducing what you're bringing into your home overall and being a more conscious consumer, there's something about it that feels lovely and simple. And so, yeah, we sell all those kinds of things like bamboo toothbrushes and tooth tabs, and we love supporting local makers. That's probably one of our favorite things about it is just the partnerships and the collaborations and helping to tell other people's stories, learning about how they got into it and why they make what they make and the positive impact it's had for their family and how it can serve our community. So there are so many different elements to the business. And I think that it's kind of a reflection of the sustainability movement as a whole in terms
Mm,
of, sustainability is this multifaceted concept, and we
yeah.
all prioritize different pieces of it at different times based on our circumstances. And so we're just trying to provide this really welcoming and judgment-free environment where people can show up in whatever way makes the most sense for them in the moment, and giving our community members a space to come together and collaborate with one another. So, in order to really help people beyond our immediate community, the community
Hmm.
members who can shop with us, we also have a digital business called Scoop Intelligence. And through that business, right now we actually have several different services and offerings. We have sustainable business coaching and consulting for businesses that want to get their B Corp certification or write an impact report. But Scoop
Oh,
Intelligence started with a digital course teaching people how to open zero waste stores, because I realized, I definitely want to expand, I definitely want to have future locations, but I can't go everywhere right now. And
yeah.
so now I've had the opportunity to teach, I think, about 40 different people how to open zero waste stores and watch them open stores in their own communities. And that has been incredibly exciting and energizing for me. And I think that also helps to kind of lift some of that burden that comes with the eco anxiety of like, oh, shoot, I have to fix this thing or I have to save the planet or whatever. But it's like, okay, now I have all these friends who are doing it with me, and
Yeah.
it's fun.
That is such a huge piece of it. I'm so happy you're talking about fun, and enjoying what you're doing and feeling good about it, because there is inevitably, especially with social media, it can be such a powerful tool, but it can also produce a lot of that eco anxiety. I've definitely felt that myself and heard it from others. And there's this pressure of, are you doing enough? And your actions are maybe not big enough. And there's a lot of comparing yourself to others. And so creating that space that you've talked about and bringing in people that are so passionate about what they do and are having fun with it and care so much about it. Like that is, aside from saving the planet, like that is what this is about. So it's really refreshing to hear you say that and affirming, because it is such a wonderful space to feel good and joyful, but also know that you're doing so much good for the planet while educating people. So, first things first, thank you for what you're doing. That's really wonderful. And we have a small shop in my town of Encinitas, California, that's very similar, zero waste, air quotes, zero waste as much as it can be, right? And it's like the first of its kind I've seen in this area. So I hope that it's just continuing to spread, and the fact that you're offering this education is huge.
Yeah, it's definitely a growing trend. It's really exciting to see how many people are interested in doing this. And I don't know of as many shops in the San Diego area, but there are a ton in LA. A lot of people who I know are just getting started. And
Mm,
it's, you know, and the problem with that, which I don't really see it as a problem, but part of the problem with that is that people get really defensive and competitive really fast.
mm,
And you'll see this in some of the, I notice it more in a zero waste shop owner group that I'm part of on Facebook that's outside of the US, because there are so many more of them in Europe and in the UK, that
Right.
they will kind of get this like, oh, I was just getting ready to open my store and someone just posted she's opening one down the street. And people get really worried and really nervous. And there's this intense scarcity mindset. And I just tell people, I've started ignoring it. I can't get involved in the comments on social media. I just like, that's just too exhausting. But what I tell my zero waste heroes, the people who are in the Scoop Intelligence program and they're learning from me, they all know we prioritize collaboration over competition, and we are helping each other. We're in this mission together. And the thing is, I want to normalize zero waste shopping. And if
Yes.
you look around at how many conventional grocery stores there are, we have work to do. And so while I understand that it would be uncomfortable to be opening your store in a small town and find out that someone else is opening one down the road, there is plenty of room for all of us. And I think we
Yeah.
will all be so much more successful once we start celebrating each other's progress instead of, feeling like there's not enough, I have to protect what's mine. So it's a tricky thing to try to navigate,
Hmm.
but I think even just the way that you spoke about that excitement and the that positive progress, just kind of staying in that high vibe energy instead of worrying about, how it might impact our own businesses. I think we'll all be far more successful that way.
100%. And that is such a good point when you think about how many grocery stores there are. There's grocery stores on every, in every shopping center that are competing with one another. And think about the reasons that like you go to a certain store. So everybody has something they like for some reason. So if anything, and of course it's like, it's a mindset shift, as you said, that needs to happen. And it's a really important one at that. But if we could get all those grocery stores to become these zero waste focused bulk shopping stores, isn't that a goal, that that we have, it is to make it that switch. So that's a really powerful mindset, because it's so easy to see someone else doing it and get defeated by that and think, oh, they're doing it, why should I even try? But we need you to try, especially if it's on your heart, because we do need more and more so that, like you said, it really does become normalized.
Absolutely. Yeah. And we all have a different story to tell. What you said, people go to different stores for different reasons. We all have a different way of connecting with customers, and we connect with different vendors. There are three, actually, there's more now because a couple of my students have opened up zero waste stores in the area. But a year or two ago, I could say there are three zero waste stores in Seattle. We sell a lot of the same products, and they're mostly all different vendors. And that's just
Mm,
because of the relationships that we've formed. And you can
yeah.
see our personalities in the products that we choose. And I love that. I love seeing how that plays out, and also seeing how our communities build themselves up. And mine is a reflection of my priorities in my business, and the other communities. We obviously share a lot of customers. A lot of them shop at all the stores,
Right.
just like when you go out and do your grocery shopping, you get certain things here and certain things there and certain things there. But
Yes.
even still, our customer base is it it's like, what, yes, this is the Scoop community. This is the very like food focused community. We're here for the bulk foods. Show me the spices. Where's the locally roasted coffee? And then one of the other stores might be more about the zero waste makeup. And I can't be bothered. You won't find those things in my store because it's not something I need in my house, which is kind of a funny way to run a business. But I am my focus group of one, and I built the store that my family needed. So those are the products you'll see on my shelves.
I think that's where it has to start, or even stay. Like it has to be something that is super meaningful to you, so if it doesn't resonate with you at the same level, it might not be as successful. And so to start with the things that, okay, this is what I would want. This is what my family would want in my community. You're going to attract those same people. So it's really, I've heard the term like zone of genius. It's really beneficial when we kind of really hone in on that zone of genius and exist there. And that's where you thrive. So it's so true. What was that like getting started in all of this? I know, especially with a brick and mortar. I've never run brick and mortar, but like talk to me about some of the challenges that you've faced with getting this thing up and running.
Well, I'm I feel like I'm in the thick of it right now, but I guess we're kind of coming out of it. So our space has been under construction all year. So when I was first getting started, the biggest challenge, well, money is always the biggest challenge, which is so frustrating when you just feel like I am constantly limited by the fact
Mhm.
that I don't qualify for conventional lending, or by the fact that, I haven't built up any business credit and so it doesn't look good, or by the fact that my business model is unfamiliar and grocery is risky anyway, so like risky
Mm.
grocery plus your weird hippie version of it, that's a no. And so that it's like when every stop sign you're running into is you don't have enough money, you don't have enough money, you don't have enough money, that's when you start to feel like super determined to build a very profitable and powerful business so that
Yeah.
you can open those doors for other people, because that being the barrier just feels like the most absurd thing to me. I mean, the amount of money that circulates around us all the time, what I need is minuscule in light of that. There are so
Yeah.
many people who could write me a check and not even bat an eyelash,
Yeah.
and they would get me out of my debt in an instant. And it's like, how do we access those opportunities where I know there are people who believe in this, who have the money? What do I do? What do I do? What do I do?
Yeah.
And that's the big question from everybody, is how do I fund this? But the second challenge I would say was just finding the location. Obviously, real estate can be challenging. There was a lot of talk in 2020 about like, oh, a lot of businesses are shutting down. There should be a lot of spaces coming up. But I think quite a few landlords have not really been they aren't really in pressurized situations yet. So a lot of the landlords
Mm.
haven't had to actually drop their prices, because that was kind of the talk around town, was like, oh, there's going to be a lot of good deals because so many businesses are closing their doors. A lot of the landlords are just sitting on it. Like, I don't know what they're doing, but they don't see any need to negotiate or like make sure that they get somebody in there.
Mm.
Um, but even prior to 2020, just finding the right space, and then again, finding someone who's going to take a chance on this weirdo hippie business, especially, and I don't know how much this plays a part in it, but especially one that's owned by a woman who's been at home
Yeah.
with her babies and, does not have a resume. I mean, don't look at my resume. I'm a person who follows her passions. I have been a Christmas caroler at the mall. I have been a horse wrangler. I've been an elementary school teacher. I have been, I mean, a dance fitness instructor, a children's choreographer. Like, shall I go on? This is not impressive to people who I'm asking to allow me to use their space to sell sustainable lifestyle products, or people who I'm asking to lend me money. And then also just finding the location that is right for your community.
Mhm.
Whether that's, making sure that you have something that's very walkable, or that has easy parking, or that's accessible to public transportation. And then for people who want to sell food, it's getting the location that has the infrastructure already in there. So one of our biggest challenges
Mm.
is that we moved into a concrete box, and we had to do the plumbing and do the electrical and build a kitchen. And you hear about people saying like, well, I'm just going to do it myself to save on money. Yeah, no, I don't know who you think is going to like build me a wall and put plumbing in it. And like, there's no way. There was no DIY opportunity. It doesn't matter how many friends I have. I could not
Yeah.
have put this thing together. But you have to meet certain health requirements to sell
Right.
food, to sell grocery items like that. And they're just, there aren't any shortcuts. You have to tick those boxes and make sure you have the right sinks in the right places and all of those things. So, and then I think, once you get past those hurdles, for me personally, being an employer has been a big challenge. It's been a very
Yeah.
big learning curve. It's not something that I really had experience with. And as I just said, I mean, I just gave you my career path. I don't even have much experience as a traditional employee, so to
Yeah.
speak. I haven't really been in very many of those settings and those relationships. And even my very short-lived experiences in retail and things like that, I knew that I needed to do my own thing and be able to follow my own creativity. 100% a creative visionary for sure. I
Mhm.
didn't know that that meant entrepreneurship. I never saw myself as a
Yeah.
business owner. Um, but I've been very resistant to learning how to be a good leader. It felt like something that was too hard and that I couldn't be good at and that I was so very afraid to get wrong. But I am very vulnerable and I'm a good communicator. And I think that that has actually taken me much further than I could have expected it to.
And I would argue that those are, and not even argue, but those are really important qualities to have in a leader that are so often not highlighted because maybe they are too soft or feminine or whatever like people want to throw out there, when in reality those are the exact qualities that can make you so relatable, and you're able to put yourself in someone else's shoes, and you do care so much about what you're doing, and you're going to hire as such, right? So that I can understand that process of stepping into a leadership role and feeling like, okay, what am I doing here? And I appreciate that you mentioned your resume and don't look at it, and you've done all these different things. I feel that deeply. I am the same way. I've done a bunch of different things. And I remember Googling one time, or maybe on a few different occasions, when I needed a resume, how to write a resume, what are things you want to put on there? And it wasn't something that I wanted to create, but like apparently I needed one for this thing. And one of the things that's highlighted is don't be a career changer, don't have all these different things on there for short periods of time. And at first I took that very like, oh my gosh, I've been doing everything wrong. And now I step back and think, no, this is what's made me who I am. I know that this is just how my path is. And we, as now entrepreneurs, which maybe that wasn't what we would have called ourselves before, but as like creative individuals and people who want to follow our passions, like, I, the resume, man, sometimes even the degree, like that is not what it's always about. And some people just don't say that. And like you said, the people who you're asking, for the money or for the rental space, like they might think otherwise, but I think it is so important to talk to people who know that there's more than what's written on your resume, or that's what's posted on your business card or your LinkedIn profile. Like that is not all there is to the story. There's so much more than that. So, and I can feel that in you and in your mission. So keep leaning into that, because that is where the magic is happening for sure.
Thank you for saying that. It kind of makes me think about how, as a teacher, part of the reason I'm not a teacher anymore is because I'm not willing to teach to the test. And so when you were describing, how do you build that perfect resume and don't change careers, I thought, oh, that sounds so depressing. And so, the idea of like, oh, if I had just stuck with something just to have a pretty resume, like don't live to your resume. Don't live to build your paper resume a certain way, because it just sounds awful. It's just a piece of paper. And we are building a world where, so I want to build a sustainable future, right? And for me, that means a future where we are thriving. If we are stuck in jobs that we don't like just to pay the bills or just to have a pretty resume, that is not thriving, not even a little bit. So I'm done with it. Like I don't do hustle culture. I don't do like stay in this crummy situation because of X, Y, and Z. If you have options, exercise them. Let's infuse more pleasure into your life. This should be fun. So that was really interesting, because I immediately thought like teach to the test. Ick. No, I would not want to live to my resume.
Yes.
Like not fun.
Yeah. Thank you. Thank you for saying that. Say it louder for the people in the back, because I feel the same way. And it's so true. So much of our culture is built around this, just like check off these boxes and make sure you have these things and get these certain accolades and climb this ladder. And if that resonates with you, great. Like, good for you, but it's not the prescription that works for everyone. But we're not told that is okay. We're like, oh, what's wrong with me? Or I'm not as hard of a worker, or I'm not, you're just judged and you feel judged, and you are sometimes made to feel less than. So you're right. So I really appreciate you saying that. Don't live for your resume, to your resume. It can be a piece of you if that's important, but it doesn't have to be. And you're right. Like this, I was just talking with someone else about this, like the term sustainability in general. we have attributed it so much to the environment, but it also is, sustainability is creating something that can keep going. And so,
Mhm.
can you keep that career going? Can you keep that lifestyle going? If it's not going to work, it is not sustainable, right? Um, so, yeah, that's a huge piece of it.
Absolutely. Yeah.
So, we've talked about some of the challenges. Share with me some of the victories, some of the good things that, maybe some highlights that have come from your journey thus far. Undoubtedly, there will be so many more moving forward, but what are some of those things that really stand out to you thus far in your journey?
I teach people to really focus on their progress, right? Progress over perfection, and to celebrate the little wins, because we're all so consumed by our to-do list, or here are all the ways that I'm still not living sustainably. Here are all the changes that I still need to make in my life, and how it's so important to acknowledge that our brain gets a reward and we can, use that momentum. But actually stopping and thinking about them for myself is so challenging. And the first thing I thought of was, very early on, before I was selling products, I was just showing up on social media. I had my logo, I had my LLC, and I was just, building my Instagram and Facebook accounts. And I would post every single day. And my kids were very young when I started Scoop. When I decided to do it, I was in bed with my husband having that conversation, and, nursing my daughter who was 4 months old, and my 2.5-year-old son was asleep in the other room. So very little kids. And sometimes, some days, the only thing that I did for my business that day was I posted on Instagram. That was like my big accomplishment for the day. And when that became really rewarding was when people started commenting or sending me messages after several months saying, I went out and got some secondhand snack containers to take to work so that I'm not taking little plastic baggies. And, thank you so much. I would have never even thought to do that. Or the first time I noticed my mom bringing a reusable spoon to Chipotle when we met up with her at work for lunch. Or it was just those things. There were people saying how the tips had impacted their lives and how appreciative they were. And that, I think that just felt so much like teaching, like elementary school. What I love is when you teach
Yeah.
the skill and then you see the person use it and you see how it improves their life. And it's just lovely. That's why teachers do it. We all know it's not for the money. Um,
Yeah.
and so that kind of sparked this thing in me where I was like, oh, I can still have that. The school system, the education system, that did not work for me, but I can still have this on my own terms and in a way
Mm-hmm.
that is beautiful and, actually gives back to me in a much more expansive way. So I think also, obviously opening the first store was
Yeah.
huge. And for me, that another big thing that I teach is, start before you're ready. And I'm the type of person who like, I want to just make sure I've got like all the little ducks in a row,
Yes.
whatever. I've got everything figured out. And by the time I found that location and I found that opportunity, I had been online, for over a year, and people were like, "When are you opening it? When is it happening?" And so I was very eager to open my doors and serve my community members. And so I did. I had a very like temporary pop-up looking setup that was like
Mm-hmm.
the inventory I had in my garage from doing pop-ups, and some folding tables and a very, very wrinkly tablecloth. And I was like so proud and so embarrassed at the same time. But a month later, I had filled the store with shelves and with products. And I had this very, very powerful moment where I realized, okay, if I had not been willing to show up in my imperfection a month ago, I wouldn't be this far right now. I would
Yeah.
still be planning and preparing and procrastinating until the end of time. So the victory for me in that was just that awareness and that recognition, because everything that I do comes back to that. Okay, but if I hadn't started Scoop with the folding tables, it would not, I'd probably still just be stuck in my
Yeah.
perfectionism and my fear. So that was a big one for me. And then just really building our community, building our team, and watching how they help each other, how they
Mm-hmm.
connect with each other, how they share tips with each other, how our team has come together to support one another and work through some really intense challenges this year in personal lives and with the store, with things not going
Yeah.
how we wanted. And it's the community and the relationships. Um, and honestly, like I said, I never saw myself as a business owner. And so when I really think about the fact that I own this business, I have multiple locations, I have the digital business, I think I was trying to count this morning. I think I have 12 employees
Wow.
and I'm doing it on my terms. I will say I am working too hard right now. Like I said, I do not subscribe to hustle culture. Um, but I do really want to be an example of how you can be a present parent,
Hmm.
whatever that means for you. I want to spend a lot of time at home. I don't want to outsource parenting. I want the majority of my time to be with my kids and my family. And so that is kind of something that it was an unexpected reward or an unexpected kind of like a new mission. I want to show that
Mm.
this is possible. You don't have to hustle. You don't have to run yourself into the ground. You don't have to sacrifice all of your family time to have your business. So I'm noticing certain things associated with that feel like accomplishments and that feel important, and they feel like I'm heading in the right direction, even though I'm not quite there yet. I'm not quite providing the example that I want to in that regard. I'm not as healthy as I should be. I'm not taking as good of care, especially as a mom. Like, for one thing, running the business and having employees, but then, and then a mom who's a people pleaser,
Yeah.
total like 100% Enneagram 9, all about the people pleasing.
Mm.
And it's hard, but it's important to me because I'm a people pleaser. It's important to me to prove that it can be done so that other people can benefit from it. So I'm hoping that by telling myself that it's for other people's benefit, that I can learn how to take care of myself. And just that self-awareness has been a big win.
That's a huge win. And that's such especially getting on into entrepreneurship. It's like, no matter where you are, it's going to be a lot of work, but then once you're in it, it's even more. It's even more, and you're wearing all the different hats, and it's your little baby. You care so much about it. It's not, people can care about their office jobs, but there's also, and I can't say it for everyone, but for so many people, they can clock out and be done. And when it's your own business, it is so hard to turn off that brain, of yours that is so passionate about it. It's really hard to clock out. So I understand that fully. So with that, as you're still learning, always learning, how to navigate that, listening to you say, like, you have all these different stores and you have these employees, and I know you wear all these different hats. Maybe balance isn't the right word, but how are you navigating that so that you still can have time with your children and not be overwhelmed and overworked?
I am, like I said, still very much in the hot mess stage of figuring this out. But there are a couple of things that are helpful for me. One is continuing to invest in my own personal and professional development. So, making sure that I have a coach, someone who can point out what I'm doing well, because I am very, very hard on myself, very critical, and B, challenge me in those ways and remind me that rest is not a luxury. It is essential, for me to show up as the best mom, for me to show up as the best leader, employer, business owner, teacher. I have to take care of myself, or it's going to significantly decrease the impact that I want to have. So
Yeah.
that has been important. Someone recently used the phrase, instead of, work-life balance or whatever, work-life harmony. And that
Ah,
that made a lot of sense for me. So one of the things that I've been working on recently is identifying the areas in my life where I could have some help. And so, whether that's having someone come into my home a couple of hours a week just to do laundry, or literally get the mail from the mailbox, or, go to my own store and buy my groceries. Like,
yeah.
there are just certain things where it's like, that doesn't have to be me. I don't,
Yes.
there's no special skills there. I don't have to do that thing. I would rather make sure that I have those extra hours with my kids. So, where can I make some space for this? And then learning more about, I've been reading a book called Bear by Susan Hyatt, and she really teaches how to infuse more pleasure in your life and how that can unlock new doors and give you more energy and just more passion for everything that you do. And so just there are certain things that you say, oh, when I'm not as busy or when things calm down or when my business is making more money, I'm going to do X, Y, and Z. And then after being an entrepreneur, being a business owner for a couple of years, you realize, oh, shoot, I'm never going to get there. I will never be making enough or have enough time or extra time or free time. Like if I'm not prioritizing it now,
Yep.
when do I think I'm going to prioritize it? So I've had a lot of trauma in the last few weeks, including a fire at our store last week, a couple days before we were set to reopen. And so within 24 hours of that fire, I had purchased myself a year-long pass to a dance studio that's just down the hill from me so that I can go to as many dance fitness classes as I want to. I'm taking Tahitian dance now, and I'm taking dance fitness. And another thing I'm working on right now is looking for a voice coach. I'm a performer. I love to sing, and I love reading to my kids. I've always wanted to narrate, audiobooks and things like that, or do voice acting. And so just allowing myself to have that. I withhold so many things, whether it's like the nice haircut or getting a new piece of clothing or something like that. I'm always holding on to everything until I reach some undefined point in time or accomplishment or achievement. And I don't treat myself like a friend. Like if a friend was doing that, I would be like, oh my word, you've worked so hard. You deserve that and way more. Go buy the thing or go do the thing or like go have fun. So just looking for those things that make my heart happy and letting myself have them so that I can show up in a better way in everything else that I'm doing.
Thank you for expressing that vulnerability with us right here. We talked about it earlier, the power and vulnerability and in being a leader. And you just did exactly that. You brought that to us. And whoever's listening right now, myself included, that is giving us permission to say, oh yeah, we can buy ourselves the gym membership if that's something that is going to bring us joy, and we can get the haircut or get our nails done. It's okay. Do it. It's that joy is going to benefit more than what maybe the monetary cost is, and we can kind of weigh that, do that cost analysis. And like you said earlier, thrive. That's so important. And, I think about like, if you got to a point, not just you, but any business owner, if we got to a point in our business where we've grown it so much and we've outsourced so much, where we only had to spend a few hours a week in it, what would you do with the rest of your time? And spending time with your kids and maybe cooking and, those kind of things, or whatever brings you joy. But there's so often we run into these blocks of like, well, what else would I do? And so to have those things, whether it's dance class or, whatever it is, like you have to figure out what those things are for yourself. So it brings me a lot of joy to hear you say those things, like, what they are, they're right there and you're just continuing to lean into them. So thank you, because you doing that when women, allow themselves to be vulnerable and it gives permission for other women to do the same thing.
Yeah. Yeah, that's definitely what I want. That's exactly what I want. We should all be thriving and, just trying to have more of these conversations around, like I said, seeking out that pleasure, infusing more of it into our lives, talking more about, women building wealth and using that not only to have a powerful impact, but for pleasure, to enjoy and to improve the quality of our lives so that we can continue the work that we're doing. So
yes.
I'm here for all of that. Yes.
Thank you so much, Stephanie, for just everything you've brought us today and for the passion that you have and the fact that you're sharing it unapologetically. I wish you the best of luck in your own business and in taking back some of your own time and figuring out whatever that work-life harmony looks like in your own life. Before I let you go today, will you please share with us where we can find you online and learn a little bit more about you and your store?
Absolutely. I kind of feel like I'm all over the place. So I will just send everyone to scoopmarketplace.com. And we're also on Instagram and Facebook. It's just at Scoop Marketplace. So we should be really easy to find. And then that could also lead you to Scoop Intelligence if you are interested in any of those services or digital courses. I am very passionate about cooking and baking. So I've got some plant-based cooking and baking courses coming out later this year that I'm really excited about. And then I have a podcast as well. It's called the Green Stuff Podcast. But hopefully, everything you need is at scoopmarketplace.com. And if not, send us a message and we will get you where you need to go.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Stephanie. Thank you for being here today and just for everything that you're doing.
Thank you. This was fantastic. I feel like it totally brought my energy up. So thank you for making space for this conversation.
Absolutely. I feel the same way. I'm happy you could be here.